Hi, everyone. I'm really excited for this month's WAMFT member highlight. We are going to be talking with Astrik Price. She has been a very important member of our WAMFT community as a networking task force member and the clinical committee member. So Astrik, let's jump on and get our conversation going. Hi, Astrik.
Hello.
Yeah, well, I have listed here a bunch of the hats that you're wearing, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about kind of what you're doing professionally?
Yeah, so professionally, I am the owner of Divine Strength Counseling PLLC. I launched back in March of 2021. So I have my own little private practice going on that is all completely virtual. And specifically, the reason why I opened that up was to reach out to people of color, especially not only with all the social injustice that was going on, but also to offer a space in regards to talk about anxiety and negative thinking for people of color, including any other traumas that may have happened since the pandemic and everything. Also, I am a military and family life counselor and been in that profession for a few years now as well, being able to serve the military population, which holds dear to my heart for sure.
Yeah, so a lot of important work going on for you and trying to balance a lot, it sounds like. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing so that we can just have us on the video a little bit easier. Tell me, kind of outside of MFT or your professional hats, like tell us a little bit more about something about you, something fun, human tricks, anything like that.
Yeah, so outside of being a LMFT, I am a goofy person, I guess you can say, and I love food. I do. I'm one of those people who, if I needed to travel to go to somewhere, I look up to see what food restaurants are around. So I'm one of those people for sure. I am also, I'm a single mom to an amazing daughter who keeps me on my toes for sure. And has taught me a lot about mommyhood, which I'm very thankful for as well. And I am a lover of music.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of really interesting kind of passions and hobbies. What kind of food is your favorite?
Oh man, so that's kind of a hard question. But if I was to like pick like a last meal situation, it would probably be pork chops with cornbread and greens.
Yes.
Yeah, but like my mom's or my grandma cooking.
Yeah, you're like home cooking, not just anybody's pork chops and
Exactly.
greens, but your mom's or your grandma's. That's awesome. Okay, well, can you tell me a little bit more about kind of your journey to become this awesome business owner and working in the schools as an MFT?
Yeah, so a good chunk of my career was in community mental health care. So I was there from my internship all the way into October of 2019. So we'll say 7 years of my career because I started in March of 2012, I believe.
Okay.
So a good chunk of that was in community mental health care. And then after taking the test 4 different times, I finally got licensed in September of 2019. But even during that time, I was in community mental health care. I was in the child and family department. I was out at the schools in a certain school district down here at Clover Park. And then I moved upstairs to do assessments and became a team lead up there before I ended up getting licensed fully and then jumping over to MFLAC. Okay. And MFLAC, the military family life counselor, once again, was pretty much my dream job because I am an Army brat. My mom and my dad both were in the military. And I always wanted to serve that population and be in the schools to do it because I believe it's so important to be inside the environment of kids, right? To really see what's going on, especially when it comes to being in school, since they're there for majority of the day,
right,
during the week. So so that happens, then the lovely pandemic jumps up in history and kind of slaps us in the face. So everybody goes virtual and I'm still able to work in my role as an MFLAC. But then as time went on, not only with the pandemic, then seeing all the stuff with like George Floyd and Breonna and so many other, unfortunately, Black lives being taken from this earth, I kind of got a pull in my spirit of like, man, something needs to happen. Also, I guess I would say that I personally was looking for a Black therapist, and it took me 5 different therapists to try to find a Black therapist. And when I did finally find him, I told him about it, which then sparked up a conversation in regards to like what to do, move forward for just me. So I'm also a spiritual person. I honestly believe that God was just like, so what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
So I did not want to be in private practice. Let me make that very clear.
Yeah.
I did not want to do private practice, but it seems like that was the route I was being led on. So then that led into, doing the whole business stuff, and then led into really doing my research in regards to how to build a business, but then also how to cater to not only the Black community, but people of color during the time that we are still honestly going through, honestly.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and had been going through historically.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty powerful. It sounds like, you were facing something personally and then kind of opened yourself up for a bigger calling of like, okay, well, what could I do? So maybe someone else who's looking for a therapist of color has someone to reach to who's highly qualified. So I think all of us in the community of Washington are pretty lucky to have you in private practice, in my opinion. So
appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm curious, so it sounds like you started community mental health, and then that kind of, you explained your journey for that, but what drew you into like mental health or marriage and family therapy in general?
That is such a good question. So when I was in undergrad at UW in Seattle, I honestly went for sociology with a minor in law, society, and justice. So I wanted to go into the juvenile jail in the juvenile court area to do counseling with juveniles and at-risk youth. So did my internship at Raymond Hall down here in Tacoma and everything. And so I kind of did it backwards. I went to UW for my bachelor's, then I went to Pierce for like my prereqs to do for criminal justice. And while I was there, I ran into my, where I did my master's, Brandman University for down in Lacey. And when I talked to the person there, she was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I kind of want to just work with at-risk youth in the juvenile jail system. And she's like, oh, well, then marriage and family therapy will be the best way to go. And I was like, okay. And so that's what got me on that route in regards to the MFT program. And so I did most of my classes down there in Brandman University in Lacey, and I did a couple on posts at Fort Lewis. And then as I was finishing that, obviously you have to do an internship, right? Which then led me over to Greater Lakes Mental Health Care down in Lakewood.
Yeah, so it sounds like started out with like a different lens, but like wanting to work with that population, and then kind of seeing the systemic way of being able to probably impact those youth. That's awesome. That's really interesting. What do you love most about being like a systemic therapist or an MFT?
Well, I'm definitely that person that's like, you have to look at the whole picture. And I know this sounds probably cliche, but I definitely believe that when you look at a puzzle piece, every piece is important and everything connects to everything, to other things, right? And so, especially when you're working with family, children and family, you can't just specifically just look at one individual, because it's a whole system for sure. You know what I'm saying? Right. When you look at the family as a unit like that. So I love the fact that it's not just pointing the finger at one person. It's involving so many other people on top of that. And then I love not only connecting with kids or youth or teens or, young adults, and being that person to be like, listen, I know that there's a lot of stuff going on with family right now. I know you may feel like you're alone, but you're not. And then also helping the parents or the caregivers or the guardians of that to pretty much see like, okay, it's not just them. I can't just point the finger at them. And it gives hope, not only for the family, but also for like the kids especially nowadays, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, that is what I like the most when it comes to system. Like, we need to look at everybody. Nobody is safe.
Yeah.
Everybody need to work on something.
Well, and I love how you just described it to really highlight, like, outside of just that nobody's safe, right? By not just pointing the finger at the one person, it sounds like you get to like inject that hope for change and like problemize the situation, right? Be outside of like, this is someone's fault. And instead just looking at, all right, we're all working together. So how are we making this change together? I love that. Yeah, that's really inspiring. So you have been obviously super involved with WAMFT. I'm sure people have seen you working with me and the networking task force and the Building a Better Us series. You've done an awesome job, like being a part of panel discussions at conference and being a mentor at Mentor Day. I guess, like, what got you involved in WAMFT in general?
So I know that my mentor at the time, I was talking to her a lot in regards to connecting with, I guess, other therapists in Washington. And I am not gonna lie, when the pandemic happened, like, I felt like isolated, I guess you can say. And so when I was talking to Liz about it, she mentioned about WAMP. And so and was also knew that I am a big networking person. And so being shut inside the house, it was just like, with at the time, a 2-year-old on top of that, like, I'm just like, I need some type of adult conversations when it comes to like other therapists and what they're doing and stuff like that. Not only for mentally, for my own stuff, but then also to be able to, help out during the time. So then Liz introduced me to you more than anything because you are the main person when it comes to networking. And so it kind of just opened up that gate, and literally it's just like, okay, well, what can we do with the cards that was dealt with for us in regards to the pandemic?
Yeah, well, I know I feel so lucky that I got to meet you, not just from a professional networking. I think we've made a good team with Rochelle as well for our Building a Better Us, but kind of that same thing, like making a friend and a connection that we get to be really supportive of each other. And I think for me, WAMP has played a big role in that. And so I'm so happy that you got connected with WAMP and that I got to be a little part of your journey. But I guess I'm curious, like, what advice would you give to maybe some of the students or associates who are on their path or their journey, wondering what to do, what direction to go?
Oh man, well, the first thing that pops up in my head is be open-minded. So, being in school, again, a lot of it is geared to you opening up your own private practice and stuff like that, right? Even though for internship, they want you to go into community mental health so you get more experience, right? Which I think is actually good as well. And so I would say be open-minded. There's nothing wrong with having a passion for working for a certain population. Sure. However, we live in a really, really big world. And especially since we are now, you can either be in the office or you can be virtually with your clients. Because like I said, I'm all virtual. So I can connect to anybody in the state of Washington. And I know that Washington has a lot of different people who come here from all over the world as well, especially if they're military, right? Yeah. So be open, number one. Define what your big why is on why you want to be a LMFT or, to become licensed, because there's going to be times where times might get tough where it's going to make you really question if this is what you want to do to be as a therapist. And also to give yourself a chance. Like, honestly, I feel like as being an LMFT, we're a small squad of people when it comes to the license that we hold, you know what I'm saying? But we are so important. Not saying that the others are important, but we definitely are, especially the fact that we are system people, you know what I'm saying? So give yourself a chance and don't give up on yourself too soon. And there's nothing wrong with reaching out to community. Don't try to do this all by yourself and feel like you know everything by yourself, because honestly, even though you're a student now, you're always going to be a student in some way, even after you get licensed. Like, I declare myself as a student no matter what, because there's always something that you can learn. So
I love that. And I definitely have seen your like passion for like curiosity and like learning more. And I love the advice you just gave about just being open and like not boxing yourself in based off of like, I know it's, at least from my experience, it can get easy to kind of be like, well, this makes the most sense. This would be the easiest path. But then sometimes that's not the path that you're going to find the most fulfillment and like engagement in. And so kind of having that bravery and that sense of community to take a leap and trust in yourself. I love that. That's awesome advice. What do you think is next on the horizon for you, Astrik?
Oh man. So the next thing is to go full time with my private practice. I hit a year in March, this past March. And when it comes to the need that is out there, it's still there, right? And especially when it comes to people looking for Black therapists on top of that. But then also I've been having so many ideas pop up into my head on what to do with my business. And in order for me to do that, I feel like I need to make the space for that. So I'm going to go full time with the practice. I'm still going to be virtual, but there's other opportunities on how to be able to help a lot of different people, I feel like, through my business.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know one thing that I've always like taken away from our time together and something that's come up is like soul care versus self-care. And I bet you're gonna do some pretty amazing things with that in your business. I'm sure you already are, but probably even more with that, if I had to guess.
Yes, absolutely. People need to know the difference for sure.
Yeah, it's so important. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Astrik, for taking the time to chat with me today. And, you know, as membership services chair and a board member on WAMFT, I'm excited to get to highlight some of our awesome members, and especially you who's like volunteered so much of your time and talents to WAMFT, just letting like the community know more about you, like the person behind the moderator and all our awesome panel discussions. And so thank you again for taking that time.
Oh, anytime. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate you.
Of course. Well, have a great day.
You as well.